Hi everyone, and welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Nick here.
Chris here.
Hello. Really honoured to have Chris Shiflett. You'll know Chris from the Foo Fighters and all of his solo stuff and No Use for a Name and his incredible career.
Are you excited,
I'm a
Dan?
little bit excited. I'm a little bit excited to be here.
I'm excited, man. I'm on that pedal show with you guys.
Okay, right. So Chris called me a couple of months ago and said, I want to put together a pedal board for these tours that are coming up.
Yeah.
And that you'd seen G3. And so we had a chat about it. And this is what you've ended up with. So I guess if we start just going through some chord tones and that sort of stuff.
Well, this thing has really worked out because this is pretty much the same setup that I had without the G3. But prior to getting that, I would have to, every time I wanted to do a change, I'd have to be like kicking like 3 pedals, and I'm trying to remember the next line of the song, and I got to go to the solo and everything. And I love this piece of gear. It has simplified my life in a huge way.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I just love it. I can't thank you enough for not only for selling it to me, but then also for explaining to us how to put it all together. Very, very helpful. But yeah, let's check out some tones. So my first go-to tone on this, my number 1 tone, starts with the Strymon Iridium that I have set on, like, it's the Iridium. You can have like a deluxe reverb or an AC30 or a Marshall sound.
Because we're Ampless, right?
Because we're Ampless. That's right. Ampless, yeah. And so I have it set to the deluxe reverb, because normally I would be doing my solo gig with my deluxe reverbs. Yep. So it works out. It's so funny, man. That thing it's almost like they aimed that right at me, because those are the 3 things that I go to.
Right.
AC30, a Marshall, or the an old Fender combo amp. So that's the starting point. Then I also have the Strymon Deco on in that like secondary function where it's like a wet dry tape thing happening.
Beautiful.
And I have it set pretty much right up the middle, so there isn't really like a lot of slap to it.
Sure.
But you still get that. It's just got that little something, that little chorusy something. And then on top of that, I have the Wampler Tumnus.
Beautiful.
Which is their sort of Klon-like overdrive. So that's tone number 1. Shall we hear it?
Let's go.
Okay. So that's my go-to tone. That's like, for a lot of the set, that's kind of my starting point.
And so most of the drive is coming from the Iridium.
No, most of the drive's coming off that Wampler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have it super pinned. I have it like a little shy of midnight on there. It sounds great too if you even just almost like roll the gain all the way off, but it just gives you that little grip. But I like to do that on the guitar itself.
Sure.
I like to, if I need to clean it up, to do it there. And then, one thing too, with pretty much all the settings, I have it set so like, that's my number 1 tone. That's the same tone with delay.
Right.
That's how I sort of make sense of it. If I want it to be a little psychedelic, I go on the top button, and I just want that dry sound, I go on the bottom. And then the number 2 tone is the same exact thing, but I just add in the phase 95. Which I have set to the phase 45 script.
Beautiful.
So that's the phase. That's tone 2, because I almost like have that on all the time.
Yeah, right.
Almost every song I've got a phaser going, because I have it set, at like about 9 o'clock. So it's not taking up a lot of space. It's just kind of doing that slow thing.
What was the first song when you heard a phase and you went, what's that?
Ooh, first song that I heard phase. I mean, maybe Shattered by the Stones?
Oh, come on.
Is that a phaser in that?
Yeah. Wow, okay.
Phaser or flanger or something on there. You know, you got that like. Because, you know, it all starts with Keith Richards, really, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Of course it does.
Yeah, that was probably the first, but maybe a close second was Rocket Ride by Kiss.
Oh, wow.
You know, Rocket Ride, yeah. I think that's a phaser. Or obviously, it's sometimes on those old records, it's hard to tell if it's a phaser or a flanger, but yeah, it's whatever. It's something color in it.
Great.
Then I go, tone number 3 is just tone number 1, but with a boost.
Okay.
So it doesn't really sound any different because I'm using the EP boost.
Right.
It's a pretty clean boost. It just gives it a little more oomph, you know? That's that. And then you can put it, you know, you can do the, you know, do that with a little delay. I should mention too that the delay that I'm using is that Strymon TimeLine that is set to the, what do they call it? The dual setting, and I pretty much leave it on there all night, so it's kind of just ping-ponging back and forth, you know. So that, there's something really nice with that and the Deco going at the same time is sweet.
Teles all the way?
Teles all the way, yeah. I just have this one with me for this tour, which is it's a Fender custom shop. It's supposed to be a 53 that I bought out in Nashville years ago when Foo Fighters were out there recording. And then I also have another one. Sam, if you would be so kind. This one I love. It is, it's actually not, don't tell Fender, it's not a real Fender. Parts guitar. I actually told them. But it does say Fender on it.
Right.
So, you know, you got that. But I bought this in a guitar shop down in Austin years ago, and it sat in my garage for a really long time, and I finally, because it didn't sound very good, but I put a Fralin pickup set in there, like their vintagey Tele setup, and this, I don't know which one of these I like more.
Wow.
They're both fantastic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Ideally, you know, I'd probably have about 4 Teles out here with me, but, you know.
So
the van tour, baby. Space is at a premium.
So you did the whole gig on those 2 guitars?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So we're just, you know, I've got a couple of tuning, you know, there's really just we go to drop D, and then there's some songs with capos, and then most of the time it's standard tuning. So, you know, knock on wood, we haven't broken a string yet. Yeah. And we're not going to start tonight, are we?
Who were the pickers that you first heard that you went, oh, I need to get some of that in here? Yeah, well, it's funny because like a lot of them are like session musicians that you wouldn't necessarily know the name, you know, like, but certainly on those old records, it's like Don Rich, you know, that played with Buck. Yeah, man. Yeah, Glenn Campbell, James Burton, all those cats, you know, like, just basically anybody that was playing on those records. I just loved the way their guitars sounded, you know. There's so many. I feel like that's such a thing with country, is the guitar playing is so prominent, you know. Yeah, it's so, and there's something with your playing as well. With all of, even go back through your whole back catalogue, your playing is, it's so in tune. Like for a lot of those heavy, fast things, a lot of guys struggle playing that in tune. Oh, nice. Yeah. Thank you. And it's like, oh, and the guitar sounds so fat and big. But when you hear those country guys, they're so confident and they're so bang on. Right. And you've got that. And they're so disciplined. So disciplined. Disciplined. And when I hear that in your playing as well, and it's really fantastic. Oh, thank you. But I like, even from the early days, the early recording, you had that something, you know. So is that something that you worked really hard on in the early days? I would love to pretend that I did, but I was a terrible guitar student when I was a kid. I just started playing in bands when I was pretty young, you know, like 9th grade.
and all through high school,
Right.
and just played in a lot of bands. And probably the biggest, most important thing was I have older brothers, and my
Yes.
older brothers are incredible players with
Wow.
great record collections.
Sure.
And so it's funny, you know, looking back, because we weren't like a family that sat around like, you know, I didn't like sit there, show me your, you know, how to play that Randy Rhoads lick or whatever. But just being in the room with my brothers, and just soaking up how they play guitar and what they listen to. It's just, I feel like I was like, you know, I was lucky to grow up at the time that I did, because it was such a guitar hero era, you know? And it was just great music all over. And I feel like, you know, especially then going and being in like the, you know, in punk rock bands and stuff, you know, I don't want to be a dick, but you could always tell when somebody didn't have that classic rock background, you know, because they just didn't have feel, you know, and like the right vibrato or what, you know what I mean?
And even in the genre, as energetic in that as punk, there's still something that you got to have.
Sure.
You know, like Steve Jones learnt guitar in a week, but he still had that thing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a great example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's just like one of those guys that you know it's him just by, it's just that magic thing. Like it's just, he's got a sound and it's in his hands, you know?
So there's I was listening to you talk to Luke Tierney and your mate.
Marco.
Marco.
Yeah.
Marco.
Yeah. Lost Kittens.
Lost Kittens. From Lost Kittens. And
we're going deep, man.
we are going deep. So, and what I absolutely loved about that interview is that you could hear the love that you have for each other, and talking about those days. Like, and one thing that you said that I'll never forget was, you can do the gig, anyone can do the gig, but can you do the van?
Right. Yeah.
And I just thought, that is awesome.
It's true though. I mean, that is as important as all the rest of it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, it is, guitar players are a dime a dozen. Like, you know, there's a lot of us out there.
Sure.
It's like, can you make those 12-hour van rides work and not want to kill each other at the end of it?
Right,
you know?
right.
Which, by the way, is a lot easier when you're young. I'll tell you.
Yeah, of course, of course. We got to hear some more sounds, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've done the phaser thing.
Yeah.
Some other.
Well, so that's my. Those are my. I played you my sort of basic tone. Then there's that with the phaser. Then there's sort of like basic tone with a boost. Just a little louder.
Yeah.
Because I'm using the EP boost, you know.
Nice.
And then I played you the clean thing, and then this is one that is really fun that I like to throw in throughout the set that you helped me with before I left, because I was struggling to understand. I couldn't like wrap my head around how you run things in parallel.
Right.
But this is my fuzz channel, which I have, just like in your video, I have the fuzz on one side, and then I have the overdrive and the phase on the other side, and I love it. It's great. You gotta love a fuzz.
So
now I've never run effects in parallel before.
Right.
When I watched your video, I was like, what? I gotta do that. Because it would drive me crazy for years. I always wanted to put a fuzz on my board, and I would have them, but it would always drop out.
Yeah,
you know?
The level of compression and stuff, and you lose that dynamics. By having them in parallel, you still get the fatness of the fuzz, but you still get the pick dynamic through.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's great, man.
And
killer.
with this G3, I also pump up the post gain a little bit on that channel.
Yeah.
Because even with in parallel, still the fuzz still just kind of like your ear thinks it's getting quieter when it, you know, it's just that weird thing. So I love that about this thing. Having that pre and post gain is just amazing.
Oh mate, that's so cool. That's so cool.
What do you use the ricochet for?
What's that?
What do you use is that a ricochet?
Oh, the
right
drop?
the drop, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we can take this time to talk about my latest single. So I put out this song. It's the first song that I put out from this record that's coming out. It's called Blacktop White Lines. Yeah. And we recorded it, like originally it was going to be in just like drop D tuning, but when we got into the studio, we wound up dropping it a half step down from there. So it created this conundrum where I was like, I don't have to bring a whole nother guitar just for this one song. So I got this drop pedal after watching the John Osborne from Brothers Osborne's rig rundown.
Right.
Where he talks about using it for, I think he had a similar situation. So yeah, I've just got this one song I need to drop a half step.
Okay.
And that's it. So, and it works, that thing works amazingly well. So you can see if I'm in the fuzz. That's what I do for that. And then I just play, got that new song. Well, I got to be in drop D. I have it up here for when it gets to the lead because I like to have a little more sauce on it, you know.
Fantastic.
There it is.
It's so good. It's so good.
Happy days, man.
Yeah, love it.
So it wouldn't be right if we didn't have a couple of Foo Fighters questions.
Sure, let's do it.
So, right. This is
What's that number one? Who are the Foo Fighters? No.
so. A bunch of people ask this, and it's a really interesting question. Matt Myers, Joe Core, Jamie Young, Daniel Atwood, Red Williams, Tom Davidson, David Tompkins, and many more. How do you go about arranging 3 guitar parts and orchestrating and getting everyone to sit in a certain place?
Well, it's funny because, you know, when Pat first came back, we really did put a lot of like thought into that, you know, trying to not step on each other's toes. But I feel like after a while, we just fall into it.
It just
you know?
clicked.
Well, and it's kind of like as the years move along, you know, you make every time you make a record, you're kind of like you're working out your guitar parts in the studio, and it just sort of naturally happens because, you know, there are moments where we're all banging the same chords or whatever. I mean, you certainly have that in songs, but a lot of times, you know, Pat might be playing a baritone.
Okay.
I might be playing some little sing-songy part over here. Dave's playing something fat down. You know what I mean? And so it's just something that we kind of do more than we even really think about anymore.
So it's like if you sing with someone a long time, and everyone knows what their harmony
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So,
And their range and everything,
Yeah.
where they're gonna go to, and even like tonally, we all kind of sit in a different place.
Sure.
Which I think helps too, because then even if you are playing, you know, close to the same stuff, it's gonna breathe a little different.
Well, that was another question a bunch of people asked. Going through No Use for a Name, Gimme Gimme's into Foo Fighters, what are the things that have changed and what are the things that are consistent?
Oh man, the biggest change. Okay, so pretty much from when I started playing all through being in No Use for a Name, I never had effect pedals.
Oh,
ever.
wow.
I mean, I think I owned an overdrive. I had like 1 or 2 of them as a kid, and I maybe had a delay somewhere in there at some point, but I never used them for live. I was always, I don't even know why. I just couldn't afford it or something. I don't know. Like, you know, I just always was literally like in the No Use for a Name days, I didn't even have a tuner on stage. You know, I remember I had those little flip top Boss tuner, and you would put your amp on standby and then plug it in. You know what I mean? I had no pedals, and when I joined Foos, like right away there were songs that you had to have like kind of specific delays on and maybe a flange and stuff. So almost like right away I had a couple of things, you know. And that just has grown over the years, you know. And those guys make fun of me for having a big spaceship of a pedal board, which has just gotten a lot smaller actually, because Dave Friedman just built me a new pedal board setup for that. That's simplifies the stage a lot. I got all my pedals off the stage for that now. Yeah. So I'll probably have more pedals, but nobody will see them, and then I won't get I won't get shit for it. But yeah, so there's like, you know, you think about, there's like a bunch of songs like Rope or Aurora or Walk, and a whole bunch of others, you know, that you need very specific delay settings that I like to have preset so I can just go to them so I'm not up there like doing like
of
tap
course,
tempo. Wait,
of
was that a dotted whatever? So yeah, that's grown over the years, but that was the biggest change for sure. And then it's funny, like when I was 18, up until that time, I had just used my brother's old Music Man that he had, but when I turned 18, I bought a Mesa Boogie. I think it's a Mark III.
Right.
And I just played that for years, and then got it like a dual rectifier. It's the 90s, so it's all about the boogie, in those years. And then played that dual rectifier. Even I just played boogies for a long time in Foos too. Like had like a Road King, and just did that for a long time, and then switched over to what came next. I feel like maybe I was playing through an AC30, just an AC30 for a while.
Wow.
And then got those Friedmans that I've been playing through for a long time now. So that's been a bit of a change. Now I've got the Friedmans and the AC30s.
Nice.
And I A/B between them, just depending on, if I need something a little more jangly or if it needs to be that crunchy rock tone. So yeah, but learning how to sort of dance around on a pedal board was like, that was a big learning curve when I first joined the band. There's something to that would just throw me, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. It took a while.
Well, I can't thank you enough. It's been awesome. Really looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, man. Anything else from you, Mick?
I'm on and off. No, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thank you
for
guys.
having us,
Thanks for
buddy.
coming down and doing it. I really enjoyed it. It's so
appreciate
great to meet you guys in person.
You too, man. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.